Monday, September 28th. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, our cop-out. We bring you the Tech News Roundup. Yeehaw!
Let's do this.
And we're back from our last convention for a while. Now we can just kind of chill until what? PAX East?
We gotta move. Right?
Yeah, well, we gotta. No, I'm only talking about conventions. We don't have any big conventions that are in the next couple of weeks.
There's some stuff in the coming weeks. There's a Yahoo Hack Day thing that I'm going to.
I'm probably not going to.
You got to sign up and get accepted, whatever. There's a GDGT event that's going to happen in the city on October 1st, I think, at 7 p.m.
Yeah, probably not going to that.
I'm going to check it out because they got big-time sponsors, like all sorts of like Microsoft and Sony, and like it's going to be big booths and everything, like a mini CES almost.
So on a Thursday night, some tech thing?
Yep.
I got stuff to do.
I'll check it.
But I bring that up mostly because I know many new people are probably here after the New York Anime Festival. So we mentioned this. Remember, Geeknights is 4 different shows, and you're listening to the Neckbeard Linux show. I would recommend coming back on Wednesday when we'll talk about the New York Anime Festival and anime, manga, comics, all the stuff you probably expect.
I would not recommend coming back on Wednesday. If you are a New York Anime Festival person, you hopefully know about anime, and you don't really need to listen to Wednesday, even though you probably will learn something on Wednesday, because we probably know more than you. However, odds are you don't know too much about technology. If I know anime fans, it's actually surprising how few of them are technically knowledgeable. Therefore, you should listen to the Monday shows and learn about the technology, which affects every person who lives in the entire world, regardless of your interest.
Just care about anime. Come on Wednesday. We'll talk about anime. I've been watching some anime.
I haven't watched any anime. It's all video games and board games lately.
I've been watching some. Of course, everything got derailed when I started reading one of my trashy Temeraire novels.
Why are you reading trash?
I don't know, it's good trash.
I'm all reading erudite stuff.
Yeah, Mr. has seen all of Initial D.
That's right. I didn't say always, I said now. And
So,
I didn't say forever either.
Since we're doing the periodic Tech News Roundup, we're not going to do any news in the first half of the show because that would be kind of stupid. We do 2 news, have a break, and then just do a bunch more news?
Yeah, that's no good. Plus, we'll run out of news if we do that.
I got plenty of news.
All right. But anyway, yeah, I got a little rant here.
You know what really grinds Scott's gears?
Why we got to use someone else's, it's like, what, there's the bullshit, and there's grinding gears. So what do we have? I don't know.
You want to call it? You want something?
I don't know. We have to call it something, but all the good ones are taken.
Geek rant.
Yeah, whatever. So basically, the thing is,
you know what's ass?
I've noticed a lot of people lately, as in the past year or few, right? They really, really complain about, oh, this application is a resource hog. Oh, it's not light. Oh, it's using too many. It's got using too much RAM. Yeah, right?
I wouldn't say that's a recent phenomenon.
Well, it doesn't matter.
In fact, it was even worse back in the day when it was a serious problem.
I know.
If I opened more than 3 IE browsers, my computer would crash.
And you have approached the crux of my point here, right? Is that I've noticed these complaints more and more frequently. Like, people will use one program that is like less feature rich over another because it's lighter, or because they have this perception of it, right? That it seems lighter, or they see it using less RAM on the RAM meter, or it takes up less disk space. All right. First of all, if you have a computer that doesn't really have enough RAM to run modern applications,
just buy some more RAM.
Buy
Jesus.
some more goddamn RAM.
Well,
it's like $5.
I'll point this out. My computer, I made a badass computer years ago. It's obviously not that badass anymore. And you know what? I'm only using about 30% of my RAM, and that includes the cache right now.
Yeah.
I've got 4 gigs of RAM. I'm using almost none of it.
Right. I mean,
both my cores are practically idle.
I mean, think about it. If you want, if anything, right, you want it to use more RAM, right? It's like you got 4 gigs of RAM, like I do. If only you're using 2, there's 2 going to waste. Your computer could be using those other 2 to go even faster. And that's actually, if using Linux, don't worry, Linux automatically uses all your RAM as much as it possibly can
but
with aggressive disk caching.
I'm just noting,
but Windows does not.
Even in Linux right now, I'm using less than 33% of my RAM, including the cache. I just have so much RAM.
I know. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, disk space.
Oh, one of my cores is doing something now.
Drives are so cheap. You can get like terabytes for nothing. So if a program takes up like 100 more megs than the competitor, that is not a reason to pick one over the other. 100 megs is such a small amount of disk space, I don't even notice it. It's like effectively invisible. Number three, it is true that some programs are just faster than others. I mean, Chrome is just faster than Firefox. It just is, right? It's, there are benchmarks that prove it. But don't go by just your perception. A lot of times you will perceive something to be faster. It feels faster, they say. But then an actual benchmark shows, no, it's just your perception.
Well, it's tricky because benchmarks
some
are
UI
not usually...
element makes it seem lighter or seem faster.
Well, one, I would argue that unless you're doing large amounts of data processing, perception probably matters more than the benchmark, especially because most benchmarks are not terribly accurate to actual use cases.
No, but you can actually have, UI and benchmarks as opposed to, a lot of benchmarks will just do like the render time or stuff like that.
If you've got an application that is measurably faster in the UI than another application, and yet people perceive the other slower application to be faster, you have done something wrong.
Yeah.
Your application is doing
bad GUI
something
design.
Wrong. Yes, but that's important, especially, we love open source software, but often not the best user interfaces.
No.
GIMP, I'm looking at you.
Anyway.
I used to think the GIMP was a good interface. Then I watched someone who knew how to draw try to use the GIMP for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, but the thing is, anyway, we're not going to go down that road.
It's not the GIMP show.
That's not the road we're going down.
That's Thursday.
My point is that when a lot of people, it's okay to choose Chrome over Firefox, right? But it's because it's faster, which it is. Don't go telling me you're using Chrome over Firefox because it uses less RAM. You're not unless you're using all of your RAM and you have no money to buy more, right? That's the only person who has a valid complaint about how much RAM it's using, right? Maybe this is, stability. If you can measure, that yes, this is crashing more than that other one, and you can tell that the crashing isn't your fault.
Well, one more possible,
which it often is.
One possible but unlikely case is the low power netbook.
That is true.
But then again, you're using all your RAM and you can't get more. So there you go.
There you go. So, a lot of people, they're like picking, they're deciding which application to use based on like these completely irrational factors of, some perceived increased resource usage.
Well, at the same time, in my line of work, this actually affects me to a great degree because one, a problem we'll sometimes run into is that a trader, we're a stock kind of company, will install our application and complain that it's too much of a load on their system. But we know how much load our application puts on someone's system, and it's basically nothing.
Yep.
It uses basically
Isn't
no
it just
resources.
a little GUI with a few buttons, like effectively the same as like a Visual Basic app with some network data traffic?
It's more complicated than that. We have different things, but regardless, the actual reason for that, as I've discovered, is that in the stock world, there's something called an OMS, an order management system. And that is what, like, the big bad trader at a company, like, manages all the orders.
That's like the Bloomberg machine?
Nah, Bloomberg machine is something different.
Okay.
But an OMS would be like McGregor, Charles River,
So this is like it's basically a screen full of numbers, I'm guessing.
Basically, an OMS is the thing where, like, the head trader of a company will put in, like, I want my company to buy 10 million of this, 10 million of that, 100 million of that, 40 million of that. I only want to pay this much for that, this much, all that stuff. And then they allocate chunks of all this stuff to all their traders. And then the traders
actually go and get it done.
In their little OMSs, get these tickets of, get this done. And then they use their discretion.
It's a federation of duties.
Let me tell you, are these things, the words resource intensive never meant much to me. Even in all the data processing and audio and video I've done in my life, until I loaded one of these bastards on my computer at work. 4 gigs of RAM, quad core, brought to its knees for like 2 minutes while one of these things loads up. And it was using all the resources.
See, now that is a valid complaint right there, But like,
No, I watch some of these stock traders. They'll have like 5 monitors and like this quad core, like 8 gigabyte, 64-bit monster of a machine, and they're still complaining about how slow it is.
I mean, that tells me the application is just poorly written, because there's no reason that a program that just, does stock stuff should take up that much resources.
Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, think about the logistics of, for example, say you have an application, right? Consuming market data. It's not just, what do you think stock prices are? It's not like there's just like, this is the price. Now this is the
but
price.
see what I'm saying is that it's a poor architecture, right? If you need like market data consumed and you have a trading company or like, whatever, you should have some sort of centralized powerhouse machine that's doing that.
Yeah, so it consumes it. How do I get it from there to me?
And then the machine that you're sitting at is only getting the data it needs from your big nasty server in the closet.
Yeah, so what data do I need? There are multiple levels of the order book. At any second, the market data on the stock market.
Problem, it sounds to me like the problem though is the desktop is doing all the work and getting the data feed right into it. Like
No,
the fire hose.
that's not really the problem. The problem is that even if you have big bad machines to get it and parse it, there's still just so much data. And you have to deal with it. What if you're trying to route out to like algos or something like that?
Anyway, the point is,
but no, the architecture's crap. Don't get me wrong, but it's not crap for the reasons you'd expect.
When you're deciding, when you're choosing between various applications, like you're choosing your browser, you're choosing your media player, you're choosing your whatever, right? Base your decisions upon rational factors and not things like it uses 10 more megs of RAM. Oh no, that means it's worse, because usually it's using those 10 megs of RAM for like some feature that's probably worth it.
Well, if you fall down that trap, I mean, I remember when the screen on my laptop just stopped working one day, and I actually got it repaired for free under the warranty. I was shocked. I expected to have to pay like $1,000 to fix that.
Yep.
And I got it all fixed, but the tech who fixed it, like, he got it all done. And first he pretended that it was going to cost me like $900. And then after I was like, God damn it, I went to pay. He's like, nah, just fucking with you.
Yeah.
But then he was like, now he was obviously a bait and switch. He pulls the RAM out of my laptop. My laptop has 2 gigs of RAM on one stick. And he's like, you got 3 slots here. Feel how hot that RAM is? It's because you only have 1 stick. If you buy 2 more 2 gig sticks, it'll even it out. And I was like, yeah, thanks for fixing my laptop. Give me my computer back. Put that RAM back in there.
I was like, yeah, RAM is hot. We know.
Plus, I was like, do you realize how long it'll take for me to hibernate my computer with 6 gigs of RAM?
So true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I have an opposite rant. I have the exact opposite of a rant. You see,
right.
I led a very privileged life, and until after I had graduated high school, I never in my life held a job. The closest thing to a job I ever had was like marching band in high school, or I remember I used to charge local kids $15 a half hour for trumpet lessons. But I never had an actual job. And I left I keep thinking like college. I left high school. I had that summer of nothing. So I decided I should get a job and get some money. So I applied to work for the U.S. Census, the Census 2000. I was a payroll clerk, an HR clerk, and I did a bunch of other crazy stuff for the census for that whole summer. And let me tell you, to this day, it was one of the most fun jobs I ever had. Like, working for the U.S. Census was so unlike what I expected. Pretty much everyone working there was cool because, for the most part, these were people who didn't need to work, who wanted to work for fun. They were like housewives who were like, I'll get out of the house and work for the census and do a good thing and save the world and census stuff. It's all cool. And I was thinking about it, and I'm not really in a position to work for the 2010 census. Even though I still have a letter of recommendation from like the regional director of the part of the census I worked for. They basically decided I was a badass, and they were like, if you want to work for the census in 2010, you can like run a regional office.
I wonder how much that pays.
Not that much.
Could you get a leave of absence to do that?
As much as I would like to, they're not going to pay me even a fraction of what I make in my stock market-y stuff.
Yeah, but you would count things, people.
Yeah, but one thing I can say,
you could send guys out and say, listen, there's 5 crab people living in the Hudson Valley.
I worked 40 hours a week for that summer. I was paid $11.35 an hour.
That's pretty good for the year 2000.
In $2,000? Year $2,000? That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, I think back, and I remember when I got my first paycheck, and it was like $400. And I'm looking at this, and I realized how much money this was, and it was all mine.
8 video games.
That's why I came to RIT.
That's why I got a job in high school as soon as I was legally able to. And that is why I was able to buy computers and video games and all sorts of other stuff.
Privileged life. My parents bought me all that stuff.
And that's
anyway.
why I am very glad I was done playing Magic the Gathering by the time I was able to get a job.
God. Magic cards were just like swords. It's a damn fucking good thing you never had money when you wanted magic cards.
Yep. When I got a job, I was tired of Magic the Gathering and I was tired of all stupid crap like that. And all I wanted was computers and video games.
No, I used that money for one thing. That job is why, when I went to RIT, I showed up with a $4,000 computer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had the baddest ass computer in the world when I got to RIT.
That's also the first thing I did when I had my job, in high school working at the dry cleaner.
See, that's another benefit.
I saved up and bought a Pentium 3 450 megahertz.
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember I bought like an AMD, like 900 megahertz with that thing.
It lasted a long time until I replaced it with that AMD, and then I replaced the AMD with what I have now.
A lot of the cost
I'm only on my third desktop in my whole life. Third.
God, let's see. I had
I had the 486, but that really wasn't. That was a family computer.
Yeah, my first computer that I bought was that AMD 900, and then I bought the computer I'm using now.
You're only on number 2.
Yeah, well, in between. Remember when my motherboard blew up? But that was an incremental upgrade.
Yeah.
I went up to a Thunderbird.
I've had plenty of upgrades, adding drives and all that, RAM and who knows what. So.
Yep. But point of advice the first. For all you nerds out there and all you punk kids, if you want some money, work for the census. They pay real well, and you basically don't have to do any work at all. It's just super fun, everyone's cool, and they need tech people. And the test you take to work for the census basically amounts to, can you breathe and can you add two-digit numbers to each other? You'd be surprised how many people fail this test.
Yep. Well, or you might not be, depending on,
Yeah, that was one of the first points when Rim became very cynical.
So, Rim was talking about the census, and I was like, man, census needs to get more technologies going on.
Yeah, Scott's like, where's the fucking API? There's probably like some busted old database. He's really down on it. So we go to the census website, census.gov. There's just APIs, open source tools. You can get all the data. You can download the data
There is a
sets.
public domain software package for the census. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm all over this action.
People always rail about...
all these open source guys probably don't even know about this. Like everyone's ignoring it. I'm so gonna rock the house with the census API.
The U.S. government is generally very behind the times, very crap when it comes to technology. But there are tiny pieces of it that are very, very well run. And the census of the United States is one of the coolest things our government does. And it amazes me the amount of wargling and bullshit that the Republican Party basically is pulling out of the woodwork this year. And I think I know why. This is more a Thursday, but I want to point out to everyone out there, the right wing and the Republicans are basically getting to the point where a lot of people may boycott the census or fight against it. Even though the census is one of the few things that's actually directly in the Constitution.
Yeah, it says right in the Constitution, not even in a law or anything else. In the Constitution, it says there shall be a census every 10 years.
Now, the
to count
thing
the
is,
people. Those aren't the exact words.
The greatest,
but it has the word census.
The greatest part about all this is that, one, part of the reason I think the right wing is scared is that in America, there has been a huge shift in population toward, liberal places and cities and things. And also, there's been a big shift away from a lot of places where Republicans had majorities. And one thing the census does for people who don't live in the United States is that every time we do it, that determines how many, seats in the House of Representatives different states get, how many votes they get in the Electoral College. There's a good chance that all the so-called blue states are going to get a bunch of seats and votes, and all the so-called red states are going to lose a bunch of seats and votes. And they don't want that to happen. However, by boycotting the census, the people who are losing the votes are basically saying, don't count me. Don't count me. Do not.
Fine. One less representative for you.
I can imagine the census 2010. They're like, yeah, there are only 8 people living in Kentucky. Well, they only get 1 seat this year. But
they still get 2 senators, though.
If you're a punk kid and you have free time, you need a job, work for the census. It's badass. I still have my badge. Not on purpose. I actually lost it and got another one because you have to give the badge back, obviously. It's like the scary-looking federal government badge. Mm-hmm. And then I found, 3 or 4 years ago, the one I'd lost.
Uh-huh.
So I've got it. I'm not going to scan it in or show it to anyone because I shouldn't have it, but it's really cool. Got a federal seal on it. If I ever really need to scam someone, that thing will so come in handy.
You could go and pretend to be a census worker right now, and then someone will get visited twice.
And then I'll probably get visited by the FBI.
Probably.
But if you're a nerd and you don't have time to work for the census, go check out all their open source API datasets and do something cool, like a mashup with Google Maps or something.
Google Charts.
Oh, yeah. But anyway, things of the day. Before we get into the things of the day, we were at a pretty cool Gizmodo thing in the city over the weekend.
Oh, yeah. Gizmodo, the website, had this Gizmodo Gallery, sort of a temporary mini museum downtown in New York City. So, we were in town for the New York Anime Festival on Saturday, and we're like, hey, let's go down and check this Gizmodo Gallery while it's there. So we go down and check it out, and it was well worth our time.
The coolest thing, we're walking toward it. We weren't we knew pretty much where it was, but we didn't know exactly. So we're walking down the street,
and we see a crowd outside a building. We're like, that must be it.
And as we walk up in the distance, we hear music, and the first thing I think is, that sounds a lot like Tesla coils. And we get there, and there's a Tesla coil concert going on.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, Emily and Alex had come with us to PAX, and as we're walking up and we see this crowd, Emily's like, that looks a lot like the crowd from PAX. And I'm like, that's probably the Gizmodo crowd. It's mostly the same kind of crowd.
Yep.
All these hipster-looking people wearing black and geeky T-shirts and being all hip. Everyone has all their smartphones out, taking pictures of the Tesla coils.
That's the PAX crowd.
There was some really cool stuff there. The mud computer, the first Walkman.
Yeah, the first Walkman ever. One of the first VCRs ever, like this engineering model from JVC. All sorts of crazy stuff.
I gotta say,
that.
the first Walkman was surprisingly impressive. Primarily,
it was awesome.
Primarily because you look at it and you're like, you think about the Walkman, like when we got them.
It was one of the better Walkman. Some of the later ones were cheap and crappy. Same thing with Discman. I had this awesome old Discman, but over time, the Discman, they just made them shittier and shittier. They didn't make them better.
The original Walkman, the revolution of the world, when people were like, carry music with you, is so small and well engineered that today I would not feel that bad carrying something that size around.
It's made of metal. It's serious business.
Plus,
it's sort of
I point out,
the original iPod has an actual wheel that actually spins.
The first Walkmans, and even continuing in Japan, they just by default had 2 ports for headphones in case you wanted to share music with a friend. Where the fuck is that on my iPod?
That's right.
I got to use some crap splitter.
Yep. It would take up some room in that incredibly small iPod, but even so, it doesn't have that much room. It's totally worth it.
Yep.
Anyway.
It was cool. I don't know what else I can say. We'll link to a gallery. I didn't take any pictures. There were so many people with smartphones taking pictures.
Yeah, one cool thing they had was a little stand where you could try out the best of each smartphone, one for each operating system. So there's 6 smartphones there.
And I love techie people, anime cons, whatever. But at this at this little gallery event, I stood there and debated with 4 people the merits of all the phones for 10 minutes, and everyone was smart.
Yeah, they had a 3D Etch-a-Sketch. They had
the 3D Etch-a-Sketch was surprisingly cool.
They had a machine that made pancakes.
They had a fancy Coke machine.
In the back, they were just playing. They were playing Rock Band, Beatles Rock Band, and I was like, "Why is it that? What is special about this? Why are they just playing Beatles Rock Band? Who gives a crap?" And then I'm like, oh, the TV is 100 inches plus.
It was this gigantic plasma screen. It was one of those beautiful things I've ever seen in my life.
It was the biggest fucking television in the universe. I was like, holy shit. I didn't even, you don't realize it because it's just a TV. And I'm just like, oh, it's a TV.
Yep, and then and right next to them was the dude playing the laser guitar.
Oh, it was a guitar that you play it by this 4 laser beams and you break them.
Actually, way back when I was making a DDR pad, I sketched out everything I would need. I didn't build it because I didn't have the money. But remember, I made that shitty-ass DDR pad I eventually got rid of?
Yep.
Well, I had this idea of making
a laser DDR pad?
A DDR pad where the arrows were all recessed and just put lasers and, mirrors and sensors.
Go for it.
And now I have the money. I might just do it.
Go for it. It'd be totally awesome.
It wouldn't be that hard to do. That DDR pad, I was not that technologically or carpentarially proficient back then.
You know what you could do, actually? You could make the DDR pad nice and instead of being metal, you could make it a nice, like a dance floor surface. If you did that, it doesn't have to move.
It would have to be recessed though, where all the things are.
It's just slightly so, though.
The other problem is that there's one dancing technique you can't do, which is where you leave your foot down and just lift up the pressure and go back down.
You could. You just had to put the laser real low.
Nah, because you have to still lift your foot. I would often, when I play DDR, my foot does not actually leave the pad. It would be cool, though. It's something maybe I'll do. I don't know. I just thought it was cool. I have an actual thing of the day.
All right.
So remember way back, I don't know how impressed Scott will be by this, but I was. I had that Martin Luther King auto-tune that was actually, I thought, pretty good and pretty inspiring.
All right.
I thought it was pretty cool. It made me, I don't know, very hopeful, very, very happy. It was a cool thing. And, suddenly people were making a ton of these things. Auto-tune is like the new hotness.
What exact, where are all these people getting the auto-tune from?
You can just buy it. It's software.
Yeah, but I mean, people obviously are not paying for it.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't check the Pirate Bay to see.
What is the name of the program?
Auto-tune.
Really?
Yes.
That's just it? Okay.
I could talk. Let's not get into it. I could talk forever. We will do a Monday show because we haven't done anything like this in a while. And
On auto-tune?
well, no, on vocoders and auto-tune and all that stuff.
Okay, I don't know anything about that.
I do. I thought of that because Scott was trying to get me to do a show on DRBD and all this cool shared file system stuff I do at
Yeah,
work.
that's something I want to know about.
Yeah, and I'll do a show on it, but I haven't been working on that stuff lately. I've been writing bullshit Java code instead, so I got to go look at my configs. But that aside, someone put together an auto-tune that is basically a tribute to Carl Sagan, who is one of the few people that I would really honestly consider a hero in this world. Carl Sagan is just the man to a degree that none of us will ever attain.
Is this the same guy did both of these or a different guy?
I have no idea. I did no research whatsoever, but I watched this 4 times and was deeply inspired. The sky calls to us. If we do not destroy ourselves, we will one day venture to the stars. A still more glorious dawn awaits, not a sunrise, but a galaxy
Well,
rise.
unless you already missed our chance.
Olduvai hypothesis and all that. But seriously, Carl Sagan, for a whole generation of people, before Scott and I and all of us, our generation, a whole generation of people became scientists. And if you ask them, it is pretty much straight up because they watched Carl Sagan's Cosmos or they read Carl Sagan's Cosmos. And we need more people to watch and read Carl Sagan's Cosmos and be interested in science.
Yeah, not enough science going on.
Seriously, watch this. It is very
I
inspiring.
mean, even people who are smart enough to listen to Geeknights are not understanding the science so much.
That's all I've got.
All right. So this isn't a big thing of the day. It's just sort of, little thing. Basically, that the new browsers with the HTML5, they're all going to have the canvas element. Some of them already have the canvas element, but not all of them. But eventually they all will. And the canvas element basically says, hey, web browser, make a square. And inside that square, I'm going to draw shit. And I'm going to draw whatever the hell I want.
Now, is that not the web developer's dream, the pixel placement on the screen?
Right. Well,
That almost rhymed.
Mostly what it is something to compete with Flash, right? So you can make a game in there, or you can make, some sort of animation in there.
Yeah.
Or something like that. The thing is you can't really do 3D in there easily. I mean,
You could do it in that GIMP way.
Yeah, some people have done Wolfenstein 3D in there, which is sort of you use 2D to make 3D. But basically, you're gonna have to write all the 3D code on your own, because it's all you have are the 2D drawing tools.
And you don't want to do that for anything other than an exercise. I mean,
Right.
seriously.
So now in the latest Firefox nightly build, right, they have WebGL. So you can do OpenGL in the canvas. 3D in the browser, no plugins, no nothing, just a box, and then you do 3D in it. And the demo, it has the spore, like a spore creature rendered inside one of these canvas boxes. So yeah, all those things that add 3D to the browser, Quake Live and such. Not gonna need that in the future. We're just gonna, 3D game right in the browser, no Flash, no nothing. I'm looking forward to it. Probably a couple years out, everyone will have it.
So, without further ado, it's time for the totally cop-out Tech News Roundup.
Oh,
I feel like I should play
shit.
some Roundup music or something.
Like Western Roundup.
I think so.
All right, that's all you. Go find some.
That's not happening.
Okay. You want to start? You got a tech news, or you want me to go for tech news?
Real quick, I want to talk about, this is slightly old news, but I have something. But remember, news, whatever. We're more about commentary here on Geeknights. But Stack Overflow, which people have been saying they should do this forever.
Well, I want to make. Well, first of all, let people know there is a website called Stack Overflow. The website is basically you might know a website called Experts Exchange, right?
Yeah, I believe you mean Experts Exchange.
Exactly. It's a website where basically tech people ask questions and then other tech people answer the questions. So if you need tech help, you go there and you ask or you answer. And the thing is, the site requires money to get into. It's not a free site. So basically, the obvious idea was, hey, why doesn't someone just make a free experts exchange? And well, someone did. It's called Stack Overflow, and it's way better in addition to being free. They also made 2 other sites, serverfault.com and superuser.com. Stack Overflow is really just for programming questions. Serverfault is for IT questions, and Superuser is for all the other sorts of computer questions that are not for Stack Overflow or Serverfault.
So they did what everyone's been clamoring for them to do forever, is now they've made something that is basically Stack Overflow for everything. Stack Exchange.
Right, so the way
And-
Stack Exchange is basically, hey you, punk kid, whoever you are, do you want to make your own question and answer site? Maybe for gaming, maybe for board games, maybe for anime, maybe for model railroads, maybe for carpentry. You give us money, and we will let you make a website that is the same software as Stack Overflow, only for whatever your topic happens to be.
So I'm going to say straight up, this is a terrible idea that is going to fail miserably and be a footnote in internet history at best.
Yeah, I think that, if
This is going to collapse for the same reason that Dig and Reddit and basically everything else that is side wiki, which failed before it even started.
we're going to talk about that in a second.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, I agree with you that it is not a good idea. And the reason, one guy, I was listening to the Stack
I think the
Over-
reason why is such a depressing reason.
Well, I was listening to the Stack Overflow podcast, right? And basically, you got Jeff Atwood, who's the guy who made the Stack Overflow with some other people. And you got Joel Spolsky, who's sort of a infamous character in the software development world, right? And the Joel Spolsky is the guy who's running the business part of, with the Stack Exchange. Whereas the Jeff Atwood, he's just doing the Stack Overflow. And basically, it's like, Jeff wanted to open source Stack Overflow eventually. Not now, but eventually. And Joel was like, no, you can never do it. Then my Stack Exchange won't make any money ever. And I think that basically they're a fool for trying the Stack Exchange model because, number one, they're charging way too much money, right? And no one who pays that much money for one of these sites is going to make that much money back. Right? I mean, no Stack Overflow site is ever going to be as big as the original Stack Overflow. And 2, right, they should have just open sourced it and made money the WordPress way, whereas WordPress is making a lot more money than Stack Overflow is going to make with the Stack Exchange.
Well, the 2 reasons why I believe it's just going to fail outright is that 1, Dig only worked, sadly, when it was primarily a walled garden of the technological elite. There was this high barrier to entry. Only like the really techie hip people were there. And these were people who generally wouldn't shitcock all over everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a million sites that, like Wiki Answers and Google Answers and Yahoo Answers and all this stuff. And they all basically devolve into garbage unless they're continuously pruned and monitored by humans.
Well, Stack Overflow is continued. See, that's the thing, though.
No, but
is that-
it's crowdsourced to the same relatively technological people, and it caters to this very specific focused group.
Yeah. Well, I think you understand that Stack Exchange is separate from Stack Overflow.
I do.
Right? Like Stack Overflow won't be ruined by the fact
Oh, no,
that
I know
there
that.
are-
I think
okay.
Stack Exchange, just in and of itself, cannot possibly succeed because what experts are you going to get in all these fields who are also technologically competent? And you're just going to get people shitcocking, if anything. And even if you avoid the problem that any collaborative internet Web 2.0 kind of thing has, if you ever get the non-technological masses to use it, is the problem that very few fields outside of science, math, and technology have such specific questions with clear that is the answers.
Yep.
I mean, in IT, or I write like, how do I make a script to do X in Python? There's one answer, maybe 2 answers.
Yep.
How do I monitor this SNMP thing?
Or at least if there are multiple answers, they are either right or wrong. There is no questionable if they might be right or wrong. They either work or they don't.
I mean, what's someone gonna ask? How do I kayak?
Right.
What kayak do I buy?
There's no objective answer to that.
And
Yahoo Answers sort of covers that kind of crap.
But I think we should move right on from this into SideWiki if that's something you were going to bring up.
No, but one more thing about this, right, is that even if you're taught, regardless of the fact that, the question of yes, there are answers or no, there aren't, tech people sit at the computer all day. Like, if you're going for model railroad questions, a guy who's working on his model railroad doesn't have, a computer right there that he's going to, rush to every time he has a problem. Tech people are sitting at the computer. When we have a problem, we Google it, and Stack Overflow shows up in the Google results. Model Railroad Exchange, right? That ain't going to happen. Model Railroad guys aren't sitting at the computer while they're model railroading. They're in a room with a table with the railroad on it. So unless you make the user interface for your website a train, it's not going to work so well.
And also, I mean, think of this in general.
A guy has a problem kayaking. He's out in the water on a boat.
A programmer knows how to ask a question that another programmer can answer.
Usually. You'd be surprised in Stack Overflow. Pretty bad questions.
Yeah.
They also Google all their problems. Other professions, like carpenters, don't Google all their problems the way programmers do. So it's just by that very nature, it's not going to work so well. I think a gaming one might work well.
It might work okay, but even then,
for tips and tricks kinds of things, like how do I beat this part?
True.
And I think that could really do a good competition with GameFAQs.
Oh, it could destroy GameFAQs. Honestly, GameFAQs has to die.
Yeah.
The culture of their, text-only ASCII file art, the whole culture of GameFAQs is just crap.
Hey, why don't we make a GameFAQs that's better? I mean, we could, it doesn't even have to be Stack Overflow. Let's just be like, hey.
That'd be really, unlike every other idea we've ever had, that would take like a month of us doing it like hardly at all.
Put it in the hopper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we could put it near the top of the hopper. It's much easier to do than our global currency.
Yeah. Well, that has to wait.
Yeah, it does.
So, yeah, you want to talk about this? So, here's the side wiki, right? Basically...
Wait, 1994 called. They want their idea back.
Right. Basically, the idea, this is an old idea, and I've seen at least 2 or 3 implementations of this idea. And the idea is this. Why do we need to have comments, on the websites? What we can do is we can just have some separate commenting system where people comment on URLs, and then you visit the URL, and then your browser will load up the comments for that URL. So basically, everyone is commenting on the websites all in one place, and you can comment on any site on the whole net, whether the site has comments or not. And it's an okay idea. At least in theory.
It's a great idea in theory because, one, there are a lot of times where there's something discussion worthy, but many times people with certain agendas will not want anyone to comment in a way that can be associated with their content.
Yep.
And 2, it's a great way to crowds. You basically would let you in the pre-masses internet. Before the long November, you basically could have had the internet the way Tim Berners-Lee imagined it.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that could never happen.
No.
It's just impossible.
So the thing is, basically, everyone who's implemented this, I saw one a long time ago that was like a Firefox extension, and it would open up a sidebar in your Firefox.
One of the earliest ones was you could stick Post-it notes to websites that were translucent. You could bring them in and out and move them around.
Right, so Google's got basically the same thing again called SideWiki, and the biggest problem I have with it is you need Google Toolbar to use it. It's like, fuck Google Toolbar.
Yeah.
I don't want a fucking toolbar just to add this one lousy feature. Right?
And 2, they say moderation and all this stuff is coming. Already too late. You've got to have that right away.
You got to have that right away. It's no good. And the second thing, they call it side wiki. It's not a wiki. It's just comments.
If it was
you
a
can't
wiki,
edit other people's comments.
If it was a wiki, that'd be great. Of course, it would just be the cockboat on every website.
Of course.
See, the real problem here, no, there are 2 things. The real problem is that, again, to be perfectly blunt and to use, angry video game nerd, the masses shit all over everything, and there's no way to stop them.
Yeah.
But that aside, most of the people who are against this are not against it for any of the reasons we have brought up.
No, they're against it because they don't want someone to comment on their no-comment site.
And all
like a news website that forces you to log in to comment there. They don't want you leaving a comment so that someone visits their, New York Times, and then suddenly the side wiki opens up and it says shitcock, poop, poop, poop.
Plus, back in the day, these Post-it note things, they got sued. Everyone got sued or threatened to be sued by anyone who would be affected by this.
Yeah, it's vandalism, blah, 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 whatever.
And all I have to say to these people is that they have no more right to the metadata that is associated with their site but not on their site than they have to, I don't know, me talking about their website.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
Yep.
It's just a website. But the thing is, it's almost what Web 3.0 is going to be. People talk a lot about what Web 2.0 was, and I think we all generally agree what that is, but no one really agrees on what Web 3.0 is, and a lot of people use stupid BS phrases like the semantic web or whatever. I think Web 3.0 is going to be when every computer is basically serving and receiving content in pretty much equal amounts.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be when there are
we need
no
static
more
IPs.
But that IPv6 and all those things, it'll be the day when there are not monolithic, gigantic web servers. It is just everything is kind of peer-to-peer. Everyone's a publisher and everyone's a receiver. And it's actually a cloud. It's actually a web.
It'd be the federated cloud where it's like you don't have, the Twitter server. It's everyone, it's more the Laconica model, even though Laconica itself sucks.
Yep.
It has the correct architecture where every community or whatever runs their own little server, and then the servers federate and such. Or every person or family runs their own server.
The world where...
So everyone has their own, instead of one big storm cloud, everyone has their own little tiny personal cloud, and then all the clouds can sort of send lightning back and forth.
Like even to agree, like Google Wave will probably go a long way toward that. But even
Google
the
Wave's
idea
gonna help out.
that web browsers, this is the one area where web browsers can change fundamentally to where instead of being primarily a get pages and interact with them, they are a share information and receive information.
Well, doesn't the new Opera have that? It's a web server and a web browser, and it can serve various things.
Yeah, I haven't played with it yet, so I don't want to talk about it.
I think it does have that though.
But extrude that into the future, and that is what I would call Web 3.0, because that is the next revolution.
Yeah, that's what the internet was supposed to be from the beginning, but we didn't.
It's weird how the people who basically pioneered the internet knew exactly what it should have been, and everyone's basically moved away from that, and now they're finally going back toward it.
Slowly but surely.
Xanadu.
The thing that really I can't say this enough times, right? Computers are like personal computers are at least 30-something years old. The internet, normal people have had, internet access. Dial-up came around 15 years ago?
Yeah,
right? And people are still acting like this shit is new and world-changing. Get with the fucking times. If the computer can do it, tough shit. It's done. Game over. If you don't realize it by now, you're never going to get it. You're an old geezer. Get in the back seat. You're done. You're not allowed to drive anymore. All right?
No, because if computers are good enough, you don't have to drive anymore. Computers do it for you.
The point is, if you don't get it by now, look at this. Newspapers are dying now. It's not like this jumped out as a surprise. You had 15 goddamn years, right? Oh, the music companies and the movie companies, what will they do? 15 years! That's a long time
Scott,
to do
I'll
something.
say this. The music industry,
you
they
didn't
knew.
see it. Everyone saw this coming. Napster was in 1999, 10 years ago, and you still are having a fucking problem. Get with it.
We gotta. There's some topic there we could turn into a show, but I'm not sure what. Other than just
Kill all the old people.
Hey, hot mama, you want to kill all the humans?
Kill all humans.
Because you realize eventually all humans will be old people compared to the computers.
Good.
So is this going to be Galaxy Express in the end? Is that where we're going?
No, it's going to be Logan's Run. All right,
that was your thing. I get to do thing.
Oh.
Real quick, in New Zealand, they have banned phones as satellite navigation devices. This is ham-fisted bullshit. This just reeks of Australia.
Get with the times. 15 years.
Australia and New Zealand, when it comes to technology, are little more than fascist dictatorships. It's just a disaster down there. The only way it works is that a lot of people seem to just ignore these laws. But think about it. They don't want people to be fiddling with their phones in cars, so they've banned cell phones as sat-nav devices. And even if you mount them on the dashboard, right? So you have to buy a sat-nav device, a dedicated one.
I think this was lobbying by Garmin and TomTom.
I think so too, because the Palm Pre, one of the biggest things about it is that they made a deal with Sprint. You get for free a sat nav, the same as what you have in your car. If you mount that on your dashboard, it does everything that one of those Garmin things does. It tells you the directions. It's all voice. It's perfect. Mm-hmm. And they just made that illegal in New Zealand because they're stupid. I don't have anything else to say.
People in government retarded.
Unless they work for the census.
Right, where they make nice public domain, software packages with nice open APIs and everything.
So what do you got? What do you got?
All right, so I think very, very soon it's the month of October, and there's something special about Octobers and Aprils in that those are the months when Ubuntu appears.
Ubuntu.
So Ubuntu 9.10, which is Ubuntu 2009 October.
Hey, isn't this one going to be an LTS?
No, April's going to be an LTS.
I'm going to hold out then.
So, for those of you who don't know, LTS means long-term support. That means if you install a long-term support version, that means you can leave it, you can use it for 3 years. And if it's a server, 5 years. If it's a regular old version, like the one that's coming out real soon it only gets updates for 18 months, I think, and then it's game over. So you got to keep, if you're using every single version of Ubuntu, you got to keep upgrading it. But if you use an LTS, which is what I would use on a server, you just use the LTSs and you ignore the other 6-month, October, April releases, and you only use the LTS ones. Anyway, this release that's coming out, it's got a lot of new goodies all over the place, right? Like Firefox 3.5 and such, One thing it has that I think is the most interesting is the booting is a lot faster. Like they really, really concentrated on the faster booting, big time. And basically a long time ago, like many releases ago, they switched the boot system to this thing called Upstart. The thing is, they didn't really take advantage of it full on. It's like they put it in there, but they didn't really optimize it. In the latest release, they pushed it real hard. And if you have like a solid state drive, your computer's gonna boot in like fucking 3 seconds. It's ludicrous. Like I've seen it. It's crazy. So I really can't wait for that because my laptop has a solid state drive. In addition, Phoronix, which is this website that is very, very Linux nerdy, they have this benchmark suite, the Phoronix test suite, and they benchmark the Ubuntu alpha of what's going to come out, or beta, or whatever it is, and they compared it to FreeBSD, and it basically kicked the shit out of FreeBSD in all but a few categories. So the next Ubuntu is going to be pretty awesome, in addition to, the usual updates across the board. Also, I saw some screencasts of GNOME, the next GNOME 3.0.
Ooh.
Big changes.
Ah, good.
It doesn't look like, a lot of time you look around at, like Linux desktops, you're like, man, they're copying OS X. Man, they're copying Windows. This GNOME 3, it's got like stuff I never even seen before. I don't even know if I like it or not. I got to use it before I can decide, but I'll show you after the show real quick, like some of the stuff they added. Like one particular thing is like they have this whole like peek behind the desktop functionality. It sort of reminds me of Windows 3.1, but not. And it's like it looks like some of it was borrowed from the Netbook remix. I don't know what's going on, but it's a big change, and I'm kind of excited just to try out something new.
So I want to just mention the Reddit issue because it's hilarious. Here's the
There have
link.
been a lot of these attacks recently on a wide variety of sites.
Because they're
Twitter.
trivial to pull off.
Yep.
But
and people have shitty security.
Here's the link from Slashdot. I'm going to read the headline of this article, which is actually on Reddit. And I quote, "What the fuck just happened? I opened a comment thread in Firefox, and my browser went crazy and posted all this shit. What the fuck?"
Basically, I'll explain the technology of the situation, right?
It's really simple what they did.
Right. So basically, a cross-site scripting attack, right, is where you put JavaScripts onto someone else's website, or you have JavaScripts on your website that do something to someone else's website, or something along these lines, right? It's basically JavaScripts that are affecting your website, even though you didn't write them. And basically what happens is a JavaScript like that, because of Ajax and various things, can do things like post comments or, anything like a user can do with JavaScript can be done to the site.
They did something similar with Flash in that recent LiveJournal exploit, where basically the Flash that got called would use the cross-site scripting to access some other application and edit the last thing you had posted to LiveJournal.
Yeah, basically people are getting hit by this kind of attack. Big-time websites are getting hit by this all over the place.
They're not easy. I mean,
all you really need to do is get when you go to a website and you log in, you click Stay Logged In. So you're still logged in. You go to some other website that has nothing to do. Let's say you're still logged in to, say, Twitter. You go to some other website that's not Twitter. It's, I don't know, Google, right? They could make something where you click on it, and then it goes over to Twitter and does stuff with your logged inness, because Twitter is all not with the good security.
They're not. They really are. This is one of those situations where it's easy to say, yeah, those people
so you go to
suck at coding.
frontrowcrew.com, you click on something, and suddenly you're sending out a tweet you don't even realize.
But we had multiple forums and things on our web server in the past, and there were even issues with us. Just no one noticed them because we got rid of all that shit.
Yep. But anyway, what happened here on Reddit is they found one JavaScript that basically says, when you hover over a link, do something. And then they combine that with the, make someone post a comment. So basically, you would go to Reddit, you would hover over a link, and it would post a comment. But it wouldn't just post a comment, it would post a reply to every single comment on the whole page.
So think about it.
So
2 or 3 people visit a page.
It's exponential. 3 people visit the page, and suddenly you've got 3, 6.
Now, here's my joke. On Reddit, how would anyone even notice?
I know, right?
Fuck Reddit. Seriously, who uses Reddit?
And basically, you know what happens, right? The comment that they're posting is the evil link itself. So
it's
it
a
just
beautiful
floods
thing.
the page in this awesome way.
It's so beautiful. I can't describe to you how happy I am that this happened.
If you're making websites, watch out for the cross-site scripting attacks so you're not embarrassed like all these big-name websites
How
are.
lucky we are to live in this time, the first moment in human history.
Yeah, right? And if you are thinking of doing an attack, cross-site scripting is real easy to do. Just learn some JavaScript. It's a joke. You can nail big-time websites real easy like.
Yep, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. And really, I'm more and more of the mind that the only way to get things like this fixed is to exploit them 100%.
Yep.
Because if things aren't exploited, people just don't care.
Mm-hmm. All right, this is semi-gaming news, but I'm approaching this from the tech angle.
Yeah, we can wind this down pretty soon, too.
Sony's coming out with this PSP Go. You might have seen it around. It's still not out yet.
PSP Go, go, go.
It's coming out real soon. And the thing is, right, there's been a lot of talk because it seems like, I think I read the EB and Australia isn't going to sell it. And some other places just aren't going to sell it. It's not really going to be a problem in the U.S., but it's going to be a problem in other places where, stores just don't want to sell this thing. And the reason is there's no games for it. All the games are download games. So if you're a store, you make all your money selling games at big margins, and you sell the consoles at, no margin, right? So why would you sell PSP Go's at no margin if you're gonna not sell any PSP Go games, because there are no PSP Go games?
You know who's gonna sell these things?
All you can sell are accessories.
The fine thing is, this is one more nail in the coffin of game stores for video games.
Well, I think it's a nail in the coffin of stores, period. But the thing is...
here's the thing. Like a Walmart or a grocery store are the places where these things like this going forward in the future will be sold, because some stores will have to exist because you can't easily buy that stuff over the internet.
Yeah.
Mostly just food stores and clothing.
Yep.
And even then, I buy most of my clothing over the internet.
Yep.
I even buy some of my food over the internet.
Yeah. Now, here's the other thing, right, is that Sony actually, I found out, they foresaw this problem. They're not that stupid, right? They knew that why would anyone sell this thing on such a low margin if there's no games? The margin on it is actually jacked up pretty high, and some retailers are happy about it. So the thing is, why would you, the consumer, buy this thing with a jacked up margin?
Here's the answer.
Here, the answer is buy an old PSP that someone's trading in for a PSP Go.
Here's another answer.
That'll be mad cheap.
They're doing this just to get the retailers to carry them in the beginning. And everyone who knows better will just wait and buy one next year when they have a massive price cut.
Also, if there's a built-in margin like that, then places like Amazon are probably going to be able to sell the thing for a big reduced cost because they're willing to suffer a much smaller margin being an internet store, not a GameStop.
I mean, GameStops are basically glorified pawn shops at this point anyway.
Yep.
And in the end, the people, the PSP...
I would love to see some statistics about how many games that are sold back to GameStops were originally stolen from other GameStops.
All right, I got one more here, and let's wrap this up.
Yep.
There were a bunch of articles recently. This is starting to happen more and more, where a bank will just, accidentally email their customer database to some dude.
This is a big one.
And it's not like this is an isolated thing. This is happening a lot. An ISP emailed their entire customer list to half the people who got bills from them recently. And the biggest one, and this is the one I'll focus on, a bank, the Rocky Mountain Bank in Wyoming.
Why is the Rocky Mountain Bank in Wyoming and not Colorado?
Accidentally sent basically,
I know the Rocky Mountains extend to Colorado, to extend into Wyoming, but the point is it still stands.
This gigantic confidential financial document to some dude's Gmail account. Now, in the real world, if someone mails you something in the physical mail accidentally, they're fucked, and by law you get to keep it.
Tough shit law.
The tough shit law. It's not, but here...
If you mail me your social security card, it's mine now.
Well, it never belonged to the person who mailed it to you in the first place.
I know, but I mean, if you mail me $100, you can't ask for it back. It's mine.
Yep, it's this whole protection thing, so you can't mail someone something and then mail them a bill later.
Right.
But basically, this bank mailed some dude this confidential information. And then they realized they made a mistake. And they went to Google, and Google said, you know what? Fuck you. Come back with a warrant.
That's right. Google basically won't give you shit unless you have a subpoena or something. So
they found some stupid judge who agreed with them, got a warrant, and basically Google was forced by law to cut this dude, this guy who did nothing wrong, off from his email account with no knowledge, no consent, no notification, nothing. They just locked him out.
Now think about that for a second, right? When it's email, you're just sort of like, let's say they sent the guy the stuff in the real mail. That's the equivalent of the judge saying, they sent you a confidential document in the mail, huh? we're just going to have to cease. The mailman's not going to visit your house ever again.
In fact, we're going to have to come and take all the mail we find in your house in case it's one of those documents.
And we're going to destroy your mailbox with a sledgehammer.
Just in case.
Just in case. That's basically what they did here. And
I'm just going to sum this up. Our governments need to realize that email and digital stuff like this has to be treated with the same respect that physical stuff does.
I mean, the same problem is happening with these 3 strikes laws that they're getting thrown around in Europe, right? If you're accused of copyright infringement 3 times, we'll turn off your internets. Oh, really? The same internets that my kids need to do homework, and the same internets I need to apply for a job, and the same internets that I need. The internets does a lot more than one thing. Email does a lot of things. These are necessary services. You can't cut off someone's entire telephone, entire internet, entire mail, entire whatever just because there's one thing wrong with it somewhere.
Well, we were talking about this, actually, you mean Emily, the other night, and I realized that if I lost access to my email for more than a day or so, I am basically I'm unable to do a large majority of the things that are necessary to my life. Like not my physical life. I mean, we're Maslow's pyramid.
I've been using email a lot less lately, but even so, I do need it.
Well, that's because I'm the producer here. I mean, I'm the one who responds to like the 20 Geeknights emails every day and arranges everything. But also my regular life, and I can eat, and I can make all the like physical necessities of my life without all this technology. But because I have all those things already, people like us, technological people, we live, I guess, socially on this like other plane of existence. Like Will Wheaton says it best. Hi, I'm Will Wheaton. I come from the internet. I have this life on the internet that cannot exist without all of these technological things. And taking them away basically cuts me off from this higher functioning plane of existence in which I exist for the majority of my time and forces me to live this other lower life.
Yep.
And internet access should be a utility. Email should be protected the way real mail is.
It should be like electricity. You just get it, and that's it. You got an IP address. You should get a static IP address, by the way. And you should just get an amount of bandwidth, and then if you use more, you pay more. It should be metered. Fair metering, though, not BS metering like the cable companies want. My mom should pay $5 a month because all she does is barely anything. And I should pay maybe $100 because I'm doing a ton of shit, like uploading Geeknights episodes.
It really just comes down to
fair metering. And as technology improves, when we get fiber optic cables and whatnot, the price got to go down to keep it fair.
It really just comes down to the fact that, it's a buzzword and a lot of people don't understand what it means, and this is not the show to talk about that. Net neutrality is seriously one of the most important issues facing government in the industrialized world today.
Yep, but it's very difficult because we want net neutrality, but if we want the government to mandate net neutrality, then we're also giving the government the power to regulate, and we don't want to give the government the power to regulate because they suck ass at it.
Well, beyond
big
that,
time.
It's difficult to convince politicians that net neutrality is important when the majority of their constituencies
are the old men who don't realize the internet's 15 years old.
I'll make a more lucid point that basically
15 years.
The majority of their constituents have no conception that it's even a problem, and it would not affect them in the near future. It's such a long-term problem. We can't even explain to these people what it is.
I think that's why a lot of people are saying it's like a red herring. It's a red herring because it's not currently an issue immediately. It's a long-term thing. So.
But in the long run, I think it's going to have more far-reaching implications for our society as a whole than even like the national healthcare debate right now has.
Oh, definitely.
Which is scary to think about, but I'm dead serious. I think that healthcare reform right now will not be as meaningful to society in the long run as net neutrality will be.
Yeah, I know. People think
primarily because net neutrality is such a simpler problem to solve. Jesus.
And, people think that, if let's say we came up with some theoretical perfect healthcare system, right? How significant a change is it really going to make in a short period of time? Basically, when you go to the doctor's office, you'll fill out different pieces of paper.
But
that's the kind of change
look at
it'll
how
make.
much the world has changed in 15 years.
Yep.
I mean, maybe I'm just inspired because I just watched this Carl Sagan thing a million times, and I have this urge to read Cosmos again, but the internet has changed our society in ways that I think few people, I don't think me and Scott, or even, some of the people at the top of technology really understand the implications and ramifications of the internet.
Everyone's trying real hard. At least some people know that we have to try real hard
Yes.
to understand them.
But I think our society is being changed faster than even the people at the cutting edge understand.
Most people, the vast majority of it's like this society is like not even like it's like, society is made of people, but it's strange in that somehow this sort of object, like non-human object that is society somehow, all right, that is people but isn't, is made of people but is not in and of itself
The internet
people, is getting ahead of all the people. It's like
it's the intelligence paradox, where if you could ever possibly make an AI that can become smarter faster than you become smarter, eventually the AI will not need you because it can make AIs faster than itself. And there's this exponential explosion of intelligence. And the internet is almost doing that to our society. I mean, in Wednesday's show, I think we talked about Ghost in the Shell. I remember talking about how Ghost in the Shell, that universe, those ideas are more true to reality than a lot of people would be comfortable to admit. And it's easy to say it isn't because you look and it's all this like cyborgs and physical world stuff. But if you look at the society of Ghost in the Shell,
especially
our society
the cyberspace metaphors, not so much the cyber brain metaphors.
I think our society right now is close to surpassing what happened in Ghost in the Shell on a societal level.
Maybe.
Close.
In some ways.
Think about how fast things changed in the last 5 years. Go 5 years into the future.
Yep.
I can't predict more than 6 or 7 months out on tech. But here's
I also
the thing.
can't wait.
I can predict. I've reasonably predicted, 5 to 10 years of politics at a time in broad strokes, and I can reasonably think I see where politics and where society and where healthcare and where all these physical things are going because they're evolving so much more slowly. And yet I can't predict where the internet's going months into the future.
Nope.
And the internet is probably going to have more ramifications in the long run.
Yep.
I think we should end on that because I kind of want to go to bed and I'm hungry.
Yep.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geek Nights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.